Page 430. The family is stopped at the tower, a restaurant on the road, and they meet Red Sammy Butts, the owner of the tower. It's restaurant, service station, etc. And they meet Red Sammy Butts, the owner, proprietor, and his wife, who's not named. On top of 430, Red Sammy tells them, just a second. Yeah, Red Sammy comes in and says, you can't win. You can't win. These days, you don't know who to trust. And the grandmother said, people certainly are not like they used to be, not nice like they used to be. So, these days, you don't know who to trust. He implies, because it's these days, what about those days, the days in the past? You didn't know who you could trust. And so the grandmother says, people are not nice like they used to be. In the past, kind of this golden period, the good old days. And so Sammy tells them a little story. Two fellers came in here last week driving a Chrysler, beat up old car, but a good car. These fellows looked all right to me, so what did he do? He let them charge their gas. Now, letting them charge their gas has a different meaning than we have today. He doesn't mean they put it on a credit card. What's he mean? It says, they looked all right to me. I gave them the benefit of the doubt. They said they would come back and pay him. So he let them fill up their car on the promise that they would come back and pay him. Obviously, they didn't. Okay? Now, why did I do that? That is, why did I let them charge? Grandmother, because you're a good man. I suppose so. Red Sam says, and then his wife comes in, bringing the orders, and says, it isn't a soul in this green world of God's that you can trust. And notice, she looks right at her husband when she says, and I don't count nobody out of that. Nobody. Great marriage relationship here, right? So the grandmother asks, you read about that criminal, the misfit? And he says, yes. Then the wife says, wouldn't be surprised if he tries to hit this place. Red Sam tells her to go get their drinks. And Red Sam then gives us the title of the story. Middle, almost exact middle, page 430. A good man is hard to find. Everything is getting terrible. I remember the day you could go off and leave your screen door unlatched. Not no more. Okay, now she's writing this probably 1952. It gets published in 1953. It's pretty clear it's after the Second World War. So the action is occurring sometime between probably 1946 and 1952. And Red Sam is saying then, over 60 years ago, in the middle of Georgia, it wasn't safe to leave your screen doors unlatched. Okay? That seems a little paranoid. I mean, crime wasn't that bad in 1952 Georgia. So they talk about better times. And what does the grandmother say is the cause for the badness of times now? Europe. So what does she mean about Europe? Europe acted, the way Europe acted, you would think we were made of money. What's she talking about? Anybody know historically? I mean, it's after World War II. Beginning, I think it was around 1948, George Marshall, Secretary of State, came up with an idea. They used Secretary of State. Came up with an idea called the Marshall Plan, where the United States would help feed and rebuild Europe. Okay? So we were paying for a lot of the reconstruction. That's what she's talking about. Now, we could update that. It could be, Europe's not the cause of all our problems today. Get on MSNBC and get on CNN, and what are you going to see? You're going to see live images of a so-called caravan of now 7,000 people marching up from Guatemala and Honduras, going through Mexico to the south border of the United States. Okay? You'll hear a lot of people say, that's the problem. It's them, what? Damn foreigners. They're the ones ruining America, etc. Now, Sam said a good man is hard to find. That's the title of the story. I could be wrong here, but I think this is an aspect where O'Connor is writing the way she does because she is a Catholic. That phrase that she uses in that letter to that young woman. And I think, I'm not positive, but I think she has a biblical story in mind when she comes up with this title. In 3 of the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, there is recounted as Jesus and the disciples are making their way to Jerusalem, and Jesus is getting ready for the crucifixion, a rich young man comes to him. And the rich young man says, depending upon your translation, good teacher, good master, good rabbi, what must I do to attain or inherit eternal life? And Jesus doesn't immediately tell him the formula. Instead, he asks him a question in return. Why do you call me good? The guy's kind of like, well, what do you know, I'm being nice. He doesn't literally say that. Why does Jesus say, why do you call me good? Because his next sentence is, there is none good but God. Okay? I think Jesus does that. I could be wrong. I'm not a biblical scholar by any means. I think Jesus does that because he's essentially telegraphing to this guy, good job. You recognize me. You said, good master. There is none good but God. Therefore, you recognize me as who I am. And then what does he tell the guy? Follow the commandments. Well, which ones? Notice, he's like your typical student. What do I need to do to pass? What do I need to do to get in heaven? Just the very base requirements. And Jesus tells him. Okay? He says, actually, don't commit adultery, don't murder, don't steal, don't give false testimony, honor your father and mother. Notice, we'll leave the graven gods, we'll set that one aside, I've done all these. In other words, I'm perfect in all these. I haven't committed adultery. I haven't murdered. I haven't stolen. I haven't given false testimony. And I've honored my parents. I'm good, right? I'm cool. I'm in. Jesus says, no, you got one more thing. What? Sell everything you have. Give to the poor. That is, sell everything you have. Get all the money that you get. Take all the money you get from selling everything, give it to the poor, and then follow me. Then you'll get heaven. And the guy walks away sad. Why? Because he's rich. He doesn't want to give it all up. They drive off. They're outside an old town named Toomsboro. The grandmother wakes up and she remembers an old plantation. And she talks about this old plantation and how it survived Sherman's march to the sea. And how this old plantation had a hidden panel with silver in it. And that Sherman probably can't find it. And what do the two wonderful, well-adjusted, beautiful children say? Let's go find that house. 4:31. The children begin to yell and scream. Why? Because Bailey says no. Dad's no fun. John Wesley kicks the back of the front seat. June Starr hangs over the front seat, screaming in her mother's ear. Baby begins to scream. John Wesley keeps kicking the back seat. So it's like kidney punches to Bailey. And Bailey tells him, shut up, shut up. The grandmother, it would be educational for them. And Bailey agrees. Why does Bailey agree? Because he wants his kids to shut up? Does he have no other way to make his kids shut up? Do parents have no other way than just giving in to what their children want? I sure hope your silence isn't, because We're already screwed up enough as it is. Anyways, he says, this is the only time. You get the implication that this is not the only time. That he usually gives in to what his children want. Why? Because they know if they kick and scream loud enough, Dad's a pushover. So, the grandma says it was a mile back, it was down a dirt road. Why is it significant? It's a dirt road. What's the difference between a paved road and a dirt road? Other than paved dirt. Think symbolism. Paving implies what? Where do you want to live on? Do you want to live on a paved road or do you want to live on a dirt road? What's going to happen to your car? More from a dirt road than it will from a paved road. It's going to get dirty. It's going to get worn down. It's going to get scratches. Okay? The paved road implies civilization. The dirt road implies less civilization. Paved road implies law and order. Dirt road implies things are a little bit wilder out there. So they go off the dirt road. And they keep going on along. Bailey says, you know, if we don't come to this place in a minute, I'm turning around. And at that moment, the grandmother has a recognition. She remembers something about that plantation. And when she remembers, she kind of jumps because she's startled. She knocks the valise off the basket. The cat jumps out. Where does the cat jump? Into grandmother's lap? Into the children's lap? No. The cat jumps onto Bailey's shoulder. Is the cat just sitting there, perching like looking out a window? No. Claws are out. Children were thrown to the floor, and their mother, clutching the baby, was thrown out the door onto the ground. Why was she thrown out the door? No seatbelt. This is before seatbelts. Some cars had them. Seatbelts don't become really common until about 1957. This is at least 5 years before then. Car turns over once, lands right side up in a gulch off the side of the road. That's this. So the car is here. Okay? Look at the next description. Bailey remains in the driver's seat with the cat clinging to his neck like a caterpillar. Claws out. So what does Bailey do? Well, when the children realize they're not hurt, they yell, there's been an accident. We've had an accident. And the grandmother, we're now told, what her horrible thought was. Oops, that plantation, that was in Tennessee. That wasn't in Georgia. Bailey removes the cat from his neck and does what to it? We're not told emphatically this, but it is strongly implied. He kills it. How? He throws it against a pine tree outside his window. I don't think he's throwing it to the pine tree so the cat will grab its claws. I think he's trying to break its back. I mean, if this were you, would you go, oh, poor little pity thing? And no, you probably wouldn't. He gets out of the car, starts looking for the children's mother, and he finds her sitting on the side of the red, gutted ditch. Why is the side of the ditch red? Is this from blood? Have any of you ever been on a dirt road in South Georgia? It's red clay. Okay? But the red is symbolic. Notice, the mother, Bailey's wife, the children's mother, only had a cut down her face and a broken shoulder. Okay, only is perfectly good adverb to describe the cut on her face. Broken shoulder? Have any of you ever had a broken shoulder? January of 2010, I stepped out my garage to drop some trash in the garbage can, and there was snow on the ground, and I was unaware that beneath about an inch of snow, there was a solid sheet of ice. And I stepped onto that ice just like I just did, and went whoosh, and broke my fall with my forearm like this. And in doing that, I totally severed my rotator cuff. Every muscle and tendon that joins the arm to the shoulder, gone. Just snapped. So when I got up, I was immediately dizzy because the pain was excruciating. And I could just do that. Okay? That's not only. And that's kind of what a broken shoulder's like. The kids say again, we've had an accident. June Star looking at her grandmother. But nobody's killed. Maybe a car will come along, says the mother. Grandmother, I believe I've injured an organ. She's trying to exact some sympathy. And we're told the road's now about 10 feet above. And over here there are dark woods. And what are we told about those dark woods? Road is about 10 feet above, paragraph 70. They could see only the tops of the trees on the other side of it. Behind the ditch they were sitting in, there were more woods, tall, dark, deep. They see a car because they can see above this, they see a car coming, and it's coming slowly and it's coming towards them. Big, black, battered, hearse-like automobile. Well, what do you drive a hearse for? Transport dead bodies. Comes to a stop just over them. Driver gets out, kind of silvering hair, silver glasses, no shirt, holding a gun. Children scream. Grandmother says, we turned over twice. He says, not once. John Wesley, being the wonderful, precocious child that he is. What you got that gun for? What you gonna do with that gun? You make those children sit down, they make me nervous. June Star, what you telling us what to do for? What does June Star, being the naive little child she is, obviously not understand? Especially about situations where one person has a gun and nobody else does. The person with the gun gets to do the talking, okay? And we're told, right after that, behind them, the line of woods gaped like a dark, open mouth. Now, why are the woods described that way? It's personification. That's implying human attributes, or it's, at the very least, animification, applying animal traits, because animals can have dark, open mouths. But usually what happens with a dark, open mouth? Is it just yawning? No. What's it doing, Cameron?
You feed it.
It's hungry. Okay? So, Bailey, we're in a predicament. And the grandmother just couldn't keep her trap shut. You're the misfit. And he said, yes, but it'd be better for you if you hadn't recognized me, because now, no witnesses. Bailey turns and utters a string of obscenities at his mother, shocked even the children. And he says, the misfit, sometimes a man says things he don't mean. I don't reckon he meant to talk to you that way. What about you? Do you think he meant to talk to her that way? How long do you think that's been bottled up? You wouldn't shoot a lady, would you? Now, why does she ask that question? Is she talking about Bailey's wife? Is she talking about little June Star? Not really old enough to be a lady. What does she mean? Screw the rest of them. You're not going to shoot me, are you? She might not mean to screw the rest of them, but, she does seem like a wee tad narcissistic. He said, I hate to have to. I know you're a good man. You don't look a bit like you have common blood. I know you must come from nice people. What does she mean by common blood? And notice, she equates goodness with blood. The kind of blood you come from. Okay? So what's common blood? What's another word for common? The same. Ordinary. She's saying, you come from good people. That is not common, ordinary people. You must have a good family back there, a well-born family. Right? You're not lower middle class or lower class. And he says, yes, and he talks about his parents, how wonderful they were. And he looks at the six of them huddled. He looks up at the sky. Ain't a cloud in the sky. Don't see no sun. But don't see no cloud neither. So what? Why does O'Connor include that little detail? Okay, keep in mind, you got redness here. You got the green gaping mouth here. And they look up and all they see is blue sky. Is O'Connor suggesting anything? What's now sitting up here? Put wheels on it. The hearse-like automobile. Well, what is, other than the sky, what else is blue? Generally, water. And they look up and all they see is blue. They've come from up here where they've been driving, heading off to the plantation, trying to find silver, stuff you can do with this life, and they roll over twice and end up down here where the ground is red. You got something getting ready to swallow them, and they look up here. What do they see? Blue. Could this be an image or something? She says in the letter we didn't actually discuss, but I had assigned it, about the use of exaggeration. Okay? O'Connor made the comment, when I write a novel in which the central action is a baptism, I'm very well aware that for a majority of my readers, baptism is a meaningless rite. And so in my novel, I have to see that this baptism carries enough awe and mystery to jar the reader into some kind of emotional recognition of its significance. I think this is a baptism image. Because what happens in baptism? Metaphorically, spiritually, if you want, what do? You go down, especially for good Southern Baptists, where you got to get all the way wet. Got to make sure, you don't have like the Achilles heel. Why does Achilles die? Because he gets shot in the heel. Everything gets, why? You go down because you die with Christ, and then you're resurrected back up out of the water with Christ. The only thing we don't see in here, necessarily, is the resurrection aspect. Okay? So, she says you shouldn't call yourself the misfit. I know you're a good man at heart. That is, okay, I know you've been killing people, but that's not really you. That's not the real you. Billy, hush. Everybody just shut up. Let me handle this. And notice when he says that, what's his position? How's he standing? It's like he's got starter blocks behind his feet, and he's getting ready to run a 100-meter dash. Is he getting ready to take out the misfit? Or is he getting ready to save himself? Hiram says, take half hour to fix this car. So the misfit tells Bobby Lee and Hiram, you and Bobby Lee take him and that little boy. Step over yonder with you. He says to Bailey, boy, I want to ask you something. Would you mind stepping back in them woods there with them? Bailey, listen, we're in a terrible predicament. Nobody realizes what this is. I think Grandma does. Kids may not yet. So the grandmother reaches up to adjust her hat. Why? Why is she wearing this stupid hat? So that people would know she's a lady. The brim has broken off. And notice, she just stood staring at it and then lets it fall to the ground. Why? If the hat represents other people knowing she's a lady, and she just lets it fall to the ground, maybe this is her recognition. You know, it doesn't really matter when you're dead what people thought about you. Hiram pulls Bailey up gently. Notice, he doesn't grab him. He doesn't poke the gun into his back and say, get up. He gently helps him up. In as Bailey and John Wesley start to make their way to the wood, what does John Wesley do and what does Bailey do? John Wesley puts his hand up and Bailey puts his hand down, and they hold hands while they walk to the wood. Have we seen this kind of emotional connection before between them? No. What have we seen before? John Wesley sitting there giving karate kicks to the back of the seat and screaming. So why now this connection? Because they got about 2 minutes to live. In other words, that separation that existed in this family. You know, you could say this is a dysfunctional family. The boxes that they each lived in and they didn't pay any attention to the other, those are gone. John Wesley reaching out, that's him saying, okay, Daddy, I need you. And then what does Bailey do? This, I think, is Bailey's failure. Does he yell out to his wife? No. Mama, I'll be back in a minute, Mama. Wait on me. What's that tell us about Bailey? Two-word phrase. Mama's boy. I don't know about you. I'm going to put myself in the women's shoes for a moment. If this were my husband, I'd be really pissed in his last minute of life that he didn't think of me. That's not narcissistic. That's not egotistic. That's, you're supposed to love me. You're supposed to leave your mama so you can love me. And you call out to her? Bailey, come back this minute. She said, I know you're a good man, to the misfit. No, I ain't a good man. But I'm not the worst neither. And he says, my daddy said, it's some that can live their whole life out without asking about it. What's the it? And it's others has to know why it is. And this boy is one of the ladders. What's the it? Life. This boy has to know why it is. Why do I exist? What is my purpose? Why does life suck? Okay? So he apologizes for being shirtless and says, but, I'll get a shirt in a few moments. And she goes, well, Bailey has some in a suitcase. You go, no, that's okay, I'm not. Where are they taking him? The children's mother screams. Grandmother, you could be honest if you'd only try. Think how wonderful it'd be, settled down, nobody chasing. Goes, yeah, somebody's always chasing after you. Grandmother, when she notices he's pretty thin, do you ever pray? No. Bailey. I was a gospel singer once. Goes on and talks about his job history. Grandmother, pray, pray, pray. She's not talking to the misfit. She's not telling him. She's telling herself. She forgot how to pray. Pray, pray. And so he goes on. Since I wasn't a bad boy, but somewhere I did something wrong and I found myself in the penitentiary. And what did he find himself in the penitentiary? Turn to his right, wall. Turn to his left, wall. Looked down, floor. Looked up, ceiling. In front, wall. In back, wall. He was in a box. Not literally. Penitentiary might mean literal, but it's also symbolic. See, a symbol is both the thing it is and that thing that it's connected to. And it might be that mid-20th century idea that we're all isolated from each other, that we're all alienated from each other. Okay? But he says, they had me there. Grandma says, well, you must have stolen something. He goes, no, nothing anybody had that I wanted. If you pray, Jesus would help you. He goes, that's right. Well, then do it. If you know Jesus would help you, then do it. I don't want no help. Doing all right by myself. How's he doing all right by himself? He's got these two boys here to do his bidding. Got a nice car. Throw me that shirt, Bobby Lee. Notice, are we told the shirt has holes in it? Does the shirt have a blood stain on it? Nope. Why? Because Bailey took it off before Bobby Lee shot him. No, lady, I found out crime don't matter. You can do one thing, you can do another. Kill a man or take a tire off his car. Because sooner or later, you're going to forget what it was you done and just be punished for it. Notice that. Kill a man or take a tire off his car. Or as my grandfather would say, take a tire off his car. What does he mean by the take a tire off his car? He's not talking about stripping it. He's talking about helping somebody whose car is broken down. So, you can kill a man, or you can help him out in a time of need. Doesn't matter. Why? Because sooner or later, you're going to forget what it was you done and just be punished for it. Doesn't matter what you do, you're still going to get punished. What's he mean by the punishing? Is he talking about the state pen? No. He's talking about life. He's dealing with this problem, the problem of pain or evil. You know? Everybody at some point confronts that question. Why do bad things happen to good people? The flip side, why do good things happen to bad people? Why are there mobsters who live to 80, 90 years old and die of natural causes? When there are 6-year-olds who develop cancer and die, or 2-year-olds, or 3 days old, or 20-year-olds, or college students who get massacred by whacked out crazies. Where's a good God in that? That's what he's asking. Okay? The children's mother starts, she's hyperventilating. Why? She knows what's happening. Lady, would you and that little girl like to step off yonder with Bobby Lee and Hiram to join your husband? Yes, thank you. Notice, he shows manners. He's courteous. And she replies, Junior, I don't hold hands with him. He's like a pig. So they walk off to the woods. And along with the misfit, top of 436, the grandmother found she had lost her voice. Not a cloud in the sky nor any sun. Second time we've been told that. In other words, you look up, it's just blue. Again, I think this is them under the water. This is the dying. She wanted to tell him he must pray. She opens her mouth, but she can't say anything. All she says is, she kind of mumbles, Jesus, Jesus. Meaning, our narrator telling us this, what she means is, Jesus will help you. But it just sounds like she's cursing, like, Jesus. Not that Jesus will help you, but, you know. In the misfit, yep, that's right. Jesus throwing everything off balance. Same case with him as it is with me, except he hadn't committed any crime that they could prove. And they could prove I'd committed one because they had the papers on me. That is, Jesus was crucified, and he didn't do anything wrong. I was, metaphorically, by the pen, crucified, but they had the papers on me. Of course, they never showed me the papers. That is, they never showed me what it is I actually did. So I said, that's why you sign yourself. So now, when he kills somebody, when he robs a store, the misfit, then you'll know what you've done, and you can hold up the crime to the punishment and see, do they match? And in the end, you'll have something to prove you ain't been treated right. What does he mean? You can hold up the crime to the punishment. What's the punishment? Now, he might mean literal punishment. You get arrested, and you can say, okay, I did this. Okay, I can see how this fits. It could also be metaphorical. And the crime could be living, and the punishment could be life. And you can say, look, I've had a shitty life. It doesn't fit with what I've done. Why me? Okay? Because I can't make what all I done wrong fit what all I gone through in punishment. See, and I think the in punishment there, he's not talking about the pen. He's talking about the deck he's been dealt in life. Why does my life suck? We hear a scream, followed by does it seem right to you, lady? One is punished a heap and another ain't punished at all. I mean, one of the big issues, income inequality. Does it seem right to you that somebody, let's not talk about somebody who built their billions, but somebody who inherits billions versus somebody who inherits squalor? Where's the fairness? That's what he's asking. Jesus, you got good blood. I know you wouldn't shoot me. He just did. Okay, not him personally. But he ordered Bobby Lee and Hiram. Bailey's wife is dead. Why are there 2 more shots? June Star and the baby. I know you come from nice people. Pray, Jesus, you ought not to shoot a lady. I'll give you all the money I've got. And he's like, damn, woman, how stupid are you? You're going to be dead in 5 minutes. Whatever money you have is going to be mine. Never was a body gave the Undertaker a tip. 2 more pistol reports. Baby boy! Baby boy! His next comment tells us how he interprets her calling out for Bailey boy. Because what does he say? Jesus was the only one that ever raised the dead. He takes her Bailey boy, to be akin to Jesus's Lazarus, come forth. You don't get to call the dead back. Only Jesus did that. And he shouldn't have done it. Why shouldn't he have done it? He threw everything off balance. Before Jesus, the world knew its place. Life's a bitch and then you die. People kill you, you kill people. Period. It's the old adage, he who dies with the most toys wins. You only go around once in life, the old Miller commercial, go for the gusto. Get what you can. Even if that does mean taking it from somebody else, He thrown everything off balance. Why? Because look what he says next. If he did what he said, that is, if Jesus actually did everything that the Gospels say he did, then it's nothing for you to do but throw away everything and follow him. If he really did raise the dead, if he really did make the lame walk and run, if he really did make the blind see, the deaf hear, the dumb speak, and not just one raising from the dead, but multiple raising from the dead, if he really was the Son of God, then what? then you better throw away everything and follow him. The rich young man. But if he didn't, if that's all a lie, then it's nothing for you to do but enjoy the few minutes you got left the best way you can. He doesn't mean the few minutes like we're all going to die within 5 minutes of now. He means life is what? Short, as Lane just mouthed. Or as Thomas Hobbes, 17th century philosopher, said, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. Life sucks, and then you die. Life's a pain, and then you die. Notice, any happiness there? How did Oedipus end? Count no man happy till he is dead, free of pain at last. That's the Misfits' motto. Notice, how do you enjoy the few minutes you got left the best way you can? By killing somebody or burning down his house. I think she'd read burning. Or doing some other meanness to him. No pleasure, but meanness. Why no pleasure but meanness? Why do you got to be mean? You know, why does Donald Trump have to be so mean on Twitter? Why can't he be nice to people? Well, if you take the stuff we were talking about the other day, especially over here, the nihilist aspect, if you take that as being the real deal, why be nice to somebody else? If there's no system of reward and punishment, and life sucks, then why not try to make it suck for other people worse than it does for you? If you're just going to die and rot away and nothing's good anyways. Well, maybe he didn't raise the dead, says the grandmother. It's almost like he's made her confront some questions she'd never thought of. She mumbles this, not knowing what she was saying and feeling so dizzy she sank down in the ditch. Not knowing what she is saying, out of her mind. And notice, dizzy. And then he gives us kind of the coup de grace. I wasn't there, so I can't say he didn't. I wish I'd have been there. And he hits the ground with his fist. It ain't right I wasn't there, because if I had have been there, I would have known. Oh, so now we know what his problem is. What does he lack? Is it faith? Faith isn't knowing. It's what? Proof. He lacks proof. Prove to me God exists, and then I'll follow him. Prove to me Jesus was real, and then I'll follow him. Prove to me he really raised the dead. Well, how can it be proved? To him. It can't. Okay? Shortly after the resurrection, according to the gospel accounts, the 10 of the disciples were all gathered together, and Jesus shows up. Thomas is not there. Thomas comes in, like the next day, and they go, Thomas, we've seen the Lord. He resurrected like he said he would. And he's like, yeah, right. Unless I see the holes in his hands and put my finger in it and feel the hole in his side, I will not believe. 8 days later, they're all together again, Thomas with them this time. The door is locked, and Jesus appears in the room. He taps Thomas on the shoulder. Thomas turns around. Jesus is like, come on, put your finger in. It tickles. Thomas replies, my Lord and my God. And Jesus says, blessed are you who have seen and believed. But more blessed are those who don't see and believe. He doesn't see and doesn't believe. Okay? That's his problem. It ain't right I wasn't there. Because if I had been there, he says, what? Then I would have known and I wouldn't be like I am. Like I am. What's he telling us? He doesn't like who he is. But he doesn't know how to be anything different. Why? Because he doesn't believe in anything else. And we're told, his voice seemed about to crack, and the grandmother's head cleared for an instant. Why is it important that it cleared? Because just prior to this, she didn't know what she was saying, and she felt dizzy. And now, boom, she sees with utter clarity. She sees his face twisted close to her own as if he were going to cry, and she murmurs, "Why, you're one of my babies. You're one of my own children." And she reaches out and touches him on the shoulder, and boom, he just unloads on her, kills her dead. How many babies has she had? Bailey's your only child. This is where you have to read the grandmother as being more than just the grandmother. The grandmother is a symbol. Yes, she's a grandmother. She's also another kind of mother. She connects to something else. What is it? Notice, it's the first time. She's not thinking about herself. She's thinking about somebody else. I think she's the mother church. Remember what O'Connor said in that letter about the church makes it actually harder to endure what there is? You're one of my babies. You're one of those suffering, she says. You're one of my own children. Why? Because he is suffering the current predicament at its extreme. As some theologians would say, the misfit is currently in hell. Real hell. Okay? And this is her, the church, reaching out. Boom! He kills her. And he says, she would have been a good woman if it had been somebody there to shoot her every minute of her life. Why? Because it took somebody there with a gun to her head to make her break out of her box, to make her connect. Okay. Exam on Wednesday. I'll put that review sheet up.